Good afternoon and welcome back to our channel and to a new program, a new video. And I hope all of you are doing well. This is Dan from the Soulify Group. And so I just wanted to welcome each one of you, whether you're inside or outside of the U.S. That's fantastic. And thank you for making the effort to join us. And so no matter what your walk of life is, you have a safe space here at the Soulify Group. So whether you're an agnostic or atheist, or you follow the Buddhist teaching maybe, or you're a Muslim, or you're a Christian, or maybe you don't follow any teaching, and that's exactly fine too. And you have a safe space here. I'm always happy to see you, and thank you for making that effort to pause and press play, actually. And so I believe we're going to get started on this segment, or this episode, our video. And so the last couple of weeks, we've really had some good subject matter as we discover some of the challenges that we can have from the awakening process, awakening spiritually, that is, and finding our true purpose, moving along as we heal and we, embark on our journey. And just keep in mind, even though you may reach out to others, you may reach out even to us at the Soulify Group here, we love to hear from you. Remember, it's your journey. You're not following someone else, but you are embarking on your journey, and each journey is a little bit different. Each journey has different components to it, and as we wake up spiritually, sometimes we find that we have, wounds, or could be, betrayals that we've experienced. It could be a long time ago, or it just happened, or whatever the case is. There's no challenge that you can't handle. God promises that He's not going to give us more than we can bear, more than we can handle. And actually, these challenges are made to make us more powerful, full of strength. And if we can just embark upon the journey and go step by step by step, as we climb the mountain, right? It's not so hard that way if we look at it incrementally and don't look at the whole thing and go, ugh. I know a lot of people say that a lot, is that they look at the whole picture, the whole program, and where they have to go and what they have to heal, and this kind of thing. And we certainly want you to have that success that you're wanting to have as well. We love each of you. We love your soul. And so let's get started unpacking this video. And we're going to look at things from a different perspective today. And so out there, as we consider finding our true purpose and what we should be resonating with. And of course, as I always tell you, we're not here during this video to change your belief system. Whatever you resonate with, that's perfectly fine. Each one of us has to determine, our spiritual team, and we're communicating with God. And when I mention God, I'm talking about that creative power source. Of course, we all have that divine source within us, but I'm talking about the creative power, whoever you determine that source is. We use different terms sometimes. Many times I will say God. It could be Jesus Christ, it could be Holy Spirit, it could be Source, it could be, divine, it could be, Spirit, universe. So we all have, there are different terms out there So I'm not trying to undo what you believe in or what you're resonating with for the sake of the time frame of the video. So you understand, I'm not going to mention all the names that it could be, or Yahweh it could be. And so let's get started. So when we know when Jesus walked the earth, we all know that he was born a baby in Bethlehem, right? And he grew up into a man, and he had a purpose as well. And we're going to discover some interesting things as we ask the question, what was Jesus's purpose? Why was he here on the earth as a human, or partially human and partially divine, right? And so in John, we want to open with the text over in John 14, verse 12, and it says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father, and whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified." And so we want to look at what was the purpose of Jesus, walking on the earth. Now we know that the bigger picture, what did he do? He healed, right? He healed the lame, the sick. Well, let's start at the beginning. So what Jesus did on earth was he proclaimed God's kingdom, right? Revealing God's love and character, and offering a path to what? Redemption, right? Through his sacrifice and resurrection. He came to seek and save the lost, demonstrating God's compassion and the willingness to forgive sin and to redeem humanity, to offer eternal life through faith in him. We talk a lot about faith and trust, but if you guys have followed me for any length of time, you'll know that sometimes I think people use the term faith and trust sort of sometimes flippantly, sometimes as a catchphrase, but it's much more than that. It's much more than that. So we want to look at specifically what Jesus was talking about here in John chapter 14 when he says, if I don't go to my Father, I can't send the Comforter. And that Comforter is going to allow you to do even greater works than I've done. So that sounds kind of strange at first, right? But we're going to unpack all of this so that we can, as we determine what our purpose is, and Jesus gave us a sort of a pattern to follow, right? And so it reminds me actually of a story in the Bible, the woman at the well, which I love the story, and but some of us aren't as familiar. So we're going to look at just a couple of the verses there during that story. Now we know that the woman at the well was a Samaritan woman, and we know from historical facts that the Jewish people and Samaritans just did not mingle. It was against Jewish law for them to talk to them, to do things for them, it was sort of a political problem there, and so we're going to look at the story here. It's if you want to review it, of course we're not going to read all 40 verses, but it's found in John chapter 4, and I believe it picks up in about verse 4, and it goes all the way through 45, I believe. But in the little village of Sychar of Samaria, there was a well there, and it belonged originally to Jacob. And so Jacob as the genealogy goes, the Samaritans, the geography where they lived, especially here in Sychar, there was a well that belonged to Jacob. And so here Jesus had sent his disciples off to gather supplies to get some food. So Jesus walked up to this well, and he kind of hung out there for a minute, and a woman happened up with all of her containers to draw some water. And so Jesus greeted her, and asked her for a drink. And so she immediately responded, she said, "How is it that you're that you're a Jew and you're asking me for a drink? And the Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." She reminded him of that. And there in John chapter 4, and I believe it's verse 10, Jesus answered her actually and said, "If thou knew the gift of God, and who it is that said to thee, 'Give me a drink,' thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee not just water, but living water." Well, what is living water? Well, the woman was staring intently at him as they were speaking, right? Looking into his eyes. And the woman noticed that he didn't have anything with him. He didn't have a cup. He didn't have a vessel to draw water from, or for her to give him a drink, right? And she asked him, "Are you greater than Jacob?" Because Jacob was their forefather. He was their patriarch generations down. And Jesus answered her and said, "Whoever drinks from this well is still going to be thirsty. But whosoever drinks from the water that I'm going to give shall never, never thirst again." And this was unusual, right? So how could we be human and never thirst for water, right? All of us have to have water, right? So the woman then responded to Jesus, "Give me of this water, and I will not have to draw the water every day. I won't have to come here and fill all these vessels with water and carry them all back." And so Jesus responded to her, "Go call your husband." And so, of course, the conversation ensued. She said, "I don't have a husband." And so Jesus said, "Yes, you rightly said so. You've had 5 husbands, and the man that you're now living with is not your husband. You answered truthfully. You answered correctly." And of course, the conversation ensued, and she perceived that Jesus was either a rabbi or a teacher. But as the conversation went on, and she realized that Jesus knew all about her past, and keep in mind that she didn't try to hide the situations from him. And so she said, "Well, you Jews worship in Jerusalem," and so forth and so on. And so Jesus explained to her, "Very soon you'll worship God in spirit. And you see, this is where Jesus actually told who he was. She realized that he was more than a teacher. He was more than a rabbi. And so Jesus actually spelled it out and told her who he was. And to make a long story short, so that we don't read the 40-something verses, she ran back to the village of Sychar. It was just outside the village. And she told everyone, "Come meet the man that we've been waiting on. Come meet the man that told me all about myself, all about my past. He knows everything." And you see, the people in that area, it had been prophesied for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that there would be a Messiah that would come. And just a footnote, the Jewish people, felt like that a king was going to come and establish a kingdom, an earthly kingdom, because, they had been ruled by Rome, there was a lot of political strife, a lot of violence, a lot of imprisonments and that kind of thing. So the Jewish people were sort of in their minds or in their heads looking for an earthly king that would set up a kingdom, headquartered in Jerusalem. But here Jesus was telling this woman, no, we're all going to worship in spirit because God is a spirit. We have a spirit. And before we go any further, again, in many videos that I drop, we want to understand that we are made up mostly of our spirit and our soul, our non-physical self, and this physical body, flesh, bones that wrap our spirit. Sometimes it's called the flesh suit or the meat suit. People like to refer to it as. And so I just wanted to call your attention to that distinction. And so, Jesus revealed no qualities and exercised no powers that men may not have through faith in him. Remember the opening text there where it says, I'm going to go away, but you're going to be able to do even greater things that I've done. So we want to look into that, what Jesus was actually talking about. Again, I'm going to repeat to you John chapter 14 and verse 12. It says, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also. And greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. And so we want to look at what he was actually talking about, what he was actually speaking about, because it was the disciples at that time. Remember, he had the 12, right? Most of them had been fishermen, and he said, come with me, be fishers of men, not of fish. And so they went with him, preaching, teaching, watching Jesus preach and teach and heal, casting out evil spirits and that kind of thing. And so what about the disciples after Jesus ascended? After Jesus was resurrected, he was with them for a very, very short period of time. And he was trying to prepare them that, after all, think about it. They had seen him crucified, tortured, laid in the tomb, and they had forgotten Jesus' words when he told them, I'm going to rise up in 3 days. But all they could see is the remorse, the grieving, right? And the person that they believed everything in, the person that they put everything into, he was gone, And so he was resurrected. He came to them, and poor Thomas, and we call him even today Doubting Thomas, right? And he had to show the wounds in the hands and the feet, and to make sure that they all knew he was Jesus, right? And so what about the disciples after he ascended from the mountain there? And in Acts chapter 2, verses 1 to 4, we see something interesting had happened. Jesus' promise to them that we've read a couple of times now, that you're going to do even greater than this. So how was this going to happen? How was this going to take place? Well, in Acts chapter 2, it tells us, and it says, And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. Now, I want to stop here. And what does it mean that they were all in one accord? It means that they all believed Jesus. They were all of one mind, spirit. They loved each other. Remember, these disciples, or the 12, had been with each other for 3 years, basically 3.5 years. And now, when they went into the upper room experience, we're told in the scriptures that there were 70. And so we want to ask, okay, where did the difference of 70 and the 12 come in? Well, when the people had seen Jesus crucified and resurrected, and remember, he had still hung out for a little while, still teaching, talking to the disciples. There were others that had been converted and began following the 12 and doing as they were doing, teaching and that kind of thing. And so anyway, in the upper room, we read, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all in one accord, in one place, and suddenly came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all of the house where they were sitting. And we just lost our lights temporarily. Hang on one